Welcome back, everybody. Here we are with the review of issue 67. So let's go ahead and get started. So first thing we're going to talk about is the NU-Class Attach Transport Shuttle. So you can tell it's got fold-down wings and all that kind of stuff. And the only place you would have seen this would have been in Clone Wars, so the show. So let's go ahead and get started. So the NU-Class Shuttle, built and designed by the Cygnus Spaceworks, was designed to fill a specific gap in the ranks of the vehicles used by the Grand Army of the Republic. The Low Altitude Assault Transport, the LAAT, also known as the Republic Gunship, could transport clone troops and their Jedi commanders easily and quickly across numerous planets and battlefields of the Clone Wars. But as versatile as it was not good at traveling long distances for these journeys. The LAAT required a larger ship for transport, mainly due to the lack of an onboard hyperdrive. Galactic Republic needed small, nimble and stealthy ships with an onboard hyperdrive, heavy armament, and capable shielding. It also had to be able to hold its own whilst deploying and picking up troops, including laying covering fire over the landing zone. The NU-Class Shuttle was the answer to this problem and fulfilled the role of a long-range armored assault shuttle. It was also used as a testbed for many other vehicles that came after it, including the later Imperial shuttles, also manufactured by the Cygnus Spaceworks. Speed and security. In clear atmosphere, the NU-Class could reach speeds in excess of 850 kilometers per hour, with its wings giving it considerable stability in hyperspace. Its hyperspace engines were a Class 1, which is pretty quick, as we know. Although there was no backup under those circumstances, the crew and passengers had to rely on the communication systems, which included the HoloNet transceiver with an impressive range for such a small ship. When landed, the communication system would automatically access the local planet feeds in order to boost its range and ensure transmissions were suitably encrypted. All right. Um, Pilot seat. Shuttle was piloted by a crew of two, a pilot and a gunner, who flew in tandem formation, so very much like, say, a Cobra. Um, their seats lowered down from the ceiling into the forward area of the main hold, allowing the flight crew to use the standard boarding hatch at the front of the ship. This meant that there was no need to provide an additional access method that could have taken up valuable space inside the ship. So basically, when they're sitting in the cockpit like this, right, sitting in the cockpit, when they'd land, their seats would actually lower down so they could exit the ship via the landing ramp here, and so they didn't have an extra like ladder or some other way to get up into the cockpit. The seats would just go up and down. Adaptable configuration. The shuttle had two movable wings, which were pivoted on each side of the hull. During flight, the wings were folded down, during aiding stability and maneuverability. For landing, the wings folded upwards, allowing the shuttle to sit down on almost any terrain. There was space for up to 30 passengers, and the shuttle was also able to carry 2 tons of cargo, making it perfect for a wide variety of operational duties. The NU-Class Shuttle quickly became the favorite with the clone troops that used it. Republic commanders and the Senate were also quick to add their support to the ship due to the variable interior configuration and adjustable landing gear. During the Clone Wars, the shuttle was used for combat and diplomatic services until it was eventually replaced by the next generation ship. Combat ready. The shuttle was well armored for its size. Its main hold was double skinned to protect those inside the the cargo being carried. Its weaponry included no fewer than 6 laser cannons with 2 double on either side, fitted into ball turrets. The only weak points were at the rear. Even though it was heavily shielded, there were vulnerabilities around the engine ports at the stern. And as the designers expected that the ship would always have a fighter escort is on its onboard weaponry only faced forward, leaving it vulnerable to attacks from behind, although the ball turrets could fire to the sides. With all weapons facing forward, the boarding ramp at the front of the shuttle was jokingly referred to as the safest place in the galaxy by the clone troopers that traveled on it. As the Clone Wars ended, the Imperial Navy adopted the NU-Class Shuttle, but behind the scenes, Cygnus Spaceworks had taken the foundation and best elements of the NU class and applied them to a new ship that could carry almost double the number of troopers with more equipment too. The larger Sentinel class shuttle superseded the NU class, but its influences lingered for a long time to come. Flight to the Florum. The impressive range of firepower of the NU class shuttle uh, ensured that it was used regularly for reconnaissance and even diplomatic missions into potentially hostile territory. This type of ship was often used by the clone commanders like Captain Rex and Commander Cody to travel on inspection tours of the Republic monitoring stations, listening for separatist incursions into Republic space. One particularly dangerous mission saw the respected Senator Karras, Jar Jar Binks, Commander CC 5869, nicknamed Stone, and his troops take a ransom of spice to the planet Florum. Their mission was to bargain with the pirate Hondo Anaka for the captive Count Dooku, but on entering Florum atmosphere, they were shot down by renegade members of the pirate band. Kurus died in the crash, along with the two pilots, and the shuttle damaged its hull. So there you go. The model shuttle, and this is our far behind the scenes here. Um, when licensed manufacturer Hasbro launched a model of the Republic Attack Shuttle, it represented the first time that it had produced a large vehicle which had previously only been seen in the TV animation series, Star Wars The Clone Wars. Previous launches had all been based on starships and vehicles that had featured in a movie release. Hasbro revealed the Republic Attack Shuttle at the 2011 International Toy Fair in New York, and it was made available for purchase later that year. It was a completely new design that folded open to become an interactive play environment featuring many moving pieces, action figures, and sound. It also came packed with a clone pilot action figure, which used the body of clone Commander Stone from 2009 and adapted with the addition of an all-new head sculpt. There we go. Coruscant Detention Center. The Republic Judiciary Central Detention Center was the primary incarceration facility on Coruscant and one of the most infamous prisons in the galaxy. Brimming with the latest technology, guarded by the sharpest and most highly trained troopers, and populated by thousands of the galaxy's most wanted, the detention center stood a beacon against the lawlessness of the criminal fraternity. Its status as a near impregnable fortress gave the detention center a fearsome reputation across the galaxy. No one in the underworld wanted to be captured and taken there, as those who entered the blast doors rarely walked back out of them. Only the toughest, most dangerous, and most wanted criminals were incarcerated at the center, and, as the Republic made great efforts to emphasize, no one ever escaped. Despite that bold claim, it was not strictly true. Inmates had escaped the confines of the prison, though not without assistance of the assistance of the prison staff. This was mainly due to the fantastic wealth and notoriety of many of the inmates. Some guards fell prey to the allure of their infamy, other to the threats they made towards friends and family, and some to the promises of riches untold. To avoid this, during the era of the Clone Wars, the Republic put in place a detachment of clone troopers who were near impossible to sway. As part of the Coruscant Guard, these troopers were entirely loyal to the Republic, but built in such a way that all of the inmates could be viewed by a guard sitting in a central location. The prison was based upon an ingenious design. The many hundreds of levels in the four smaller wings and main central tower were interconnected by access tunnels and walkways, as well as speeder lanes for transporting high security prisoners from one block to another. The detention center had 6 junctions off the primary speeder lane on the ground floor of the center, and the dedicated airspace and air speeder lanes to nullify the threat of aerial incidents happening near the building. Let's go up here and talk about this real quick, and we'll finish this one up. A secure facility. The design of the detention center was such that guards and automated security systems had the prisoners under surveillance at all times, with facilities for all manner of species to be held there. The prison was one of the most secure in the galaxy. As with all prisons, there were ways and means to circumvent the systems. Many breakouts were attempted, though only a tiny minority succeeded. Most of these attempts were thanks to inside assistance from weak-willed officers who turned a blind eye, but with the unwavering loyalty of the clone trooper never in question, more were stationed at the prison to prevent such escapes. All right. Large landing platforms were scattered around the center, while docking areas were available for much larger vessels to hover on repulsors as prisoners, guards, visitors, and prisoners boarded or exited. Um, Chain of command. Underground access points catered for the heavily armored prisoner transport vehicles that wove through the lower levels of the city, flanked by clone speeder bike outriders, and with highly trained marksmen stationed along the route. The Republic Judiciary Central Detention Center, boy, that's a mouthful, was in every sense a city within a larger city. Overseen by the Republic Judiciary Council, later the Imperial Penal Council, the chief warden of the prison reported directly to the Supreme Chancellor. After the rise of the Empire, the warden reported instead to a senior Moff with a sizable amount of latitude in the area of prison justice. The chief warden had the legal power to extend or shorten sentences or to send prisoners to other associated prison facilities in every corner of the galaxy. When required, he could use extreme methods to persuade prisoners to talk and, in rare circumstances, use the penalty of death. However, these powers were rarely exercised. The detention center itself was deterrent enough for most prisoners. Lockdown. I don't know what the deal is, but freaking flies. I don't know if I got him, but it's getting ridiculous. Over the centuries, presidents, queens, kings, heads of state, and religious leaders had been incarcerated within its walls, many for political reasons, but in the modern era, the most common guess was from the criminal underworld, with an estimated 95% of the prison's 300,000 population coming from the profession of bounty hunting, assassin work, smuggling, slaving, or vice. Select prisoners were allowed 2 hours a day to mix with fellow inmates, watch strictly designated holovids, and take part in social activities. But lockdown could be initiated at a moment's notice if the threat of violence ever reared its head. Inspiration. This is our behind the scenes here. The design of the detention center appeared to be influenced by the ideas of English professor and social theorist Jeremy Bentham. In the late 18th century, Bentham proposed a new prison layout that would allow a single guard to view any of the inmates at will. While one guard obviously could not watch all the prisoners simultaneously, uh, each one knew that the single guard could view any of them at will. Bentham's panopticon design, named after the mythical Greek giant with 100 eyes, Argus Panetops, was intended to regulate the behavior of the inmates. Being watched, they would act differently and control their own behavior. So there's actually, I don't know where all this was ever built, but I know there's one down in South America someplace. There was one built down there. So, and apparently it was a lot of, um, it was kind of one of those dictatorship things, and a lot of political prisoners were put in there. So, yeah, it's not used anymore, but it was used at some point. Yeah, so pretty cool. A Smuggler's Guide Part 2. Again, we're going to talk about Rodeo. Rodeo, with its many moons, is the Tyrius in the Tyrius star system. It is a stormy world covered in gray and purple clouds, whose near continuous rains have spawned dense jungle. It's also a humid planet with a thick atmosphere, which humans describe as close. The inhabitants of the jungle world gained their reputation in the Republic Circle for being a slippery lot. This reputation continued through the Civil War era. When Luke Skywalker came to Rodeo on Rebel Alliance business, he found it a nest of intrigue, replete with secret landing pads, a hidden tunnel, and dubious loyalties. In short, a smuggler's paradise. The Sons of Rodeo earned a certain notoriety in the galaxy for their own illegal activities, especially kidnapping, something underlined by the actions of two different Rhodians during the Clone Wars. First, Senator Onaconda Farr's name briefly became synonymous with treachery when Farr kidnapped Senator Padme Amidala of Naboo on behalf of the Separatists. But Farr atoned for his sins by delivering Trade Federation Viceroy Newt Gunroy into Republic custody. He was eventually poisoned by his Separatist-employed aide. Later, Rhodian criminal Greedo became notorious as a kidnapper. When the Pantoran chairman Papanoida's daughter Chi Ikwe and Chi Aminwe disappeared, it turned out that Greedo had abducted the sisters after the chairman asked for Republic help when the Trade Federation blockaded his world. Greedo was known to the smuggling fraternity and was working for Jabba the Hutt when he tried to collect the bounty on Han Solo at the Mos Eisley Cantina in Tatooine. However, he died at the end of the smuggler's blaster, despite his reputation as a skilled hunter. Rhodia is a planet of extreme contrast, jungles full of vicious creatures butt up against the cities, and settlements in the shimmering domes that mix high technology with occasionally simple buildings. During the Civil War, the ruler of Rhodia was from the Chatsa clan and cooperated fully with the Empire. As a result, the majority of trade was supposed to flow through the Chatsa clan. The other clans conducted business openly within the rules when it suited them. However, as they always have done, they also operated more clandestine trades through hidden landing platforms, manufacturing facilities, and meeting places. Smugglers working on Rhodia tend to cultivate ties to one specific clan. There exists a state of near continuous conflict between the clans, with each spying on, sabotaging, and reporting on the others in the quiet but intense battle for supremacy. Trying to work with more than one clan is a good way to get killed quickly on a planet where weapons are commonplace. Better safe than sorry. If doing deals in is the main focus of your trip, it's wise to limit your travel to the dome cities. Excursions outside of these are ill-advised, even for smugglers used to living dangerously. The jungles should be considered off-limits for anyone not native of the planet. not simply due to their vicious predators, but because they are guarded and used by the various clans for weapons testing. Trespassers will be hunted until unto death. Smuggling under the Empire. Although those high in imperial government would deny it, smuggling was rife even under the iron rule of the Empire. Even the most tightly controlled planets, from Lothal to the galactic capital world of Coruscant, attracted all manner of lawbreakers, who operated under the noses of officials and their legions of stormtroopers. Coruscant has always had a dark side to it, even seen most clearly in its entertainment districts. Here, pleasures legal and illicit danced openly side by side in the fragrant smoke under bright hollow signs, and where Hut Clan representatives rubbed shoulders with senators. Just about any goods from around the galaxy could be brought and sold on Coruscant. Legally in the malls or illegally on the black market, all you needed was to carry plenty of space credits for the odd bribe to ensure the officials would look the other way when you needed them to. In those dark days, there was also plenty of money to be made by the independent traders through bargaining with imperial officials. Indeed, it was the only way smuggling could be safely carried out on the capital world. Deals could be done with imperial bureaucrats, politicians, and military, as well as civilian contractors. Usually, none would share their machinations with others in their jurisdiction, let alone their superiors, for the fear of falling foul of another's political plotting. Such a perceived weakness could result in a demotion or death, but the end game was always advancement up the imperial ranks at the expense of other less fortunate. Kashyyyk, one of the galaxy's most famous smugglers, hails from Kashyyyk. Chewbacca the Wookiee, co-pilot and first mate of Captain Solo of the Millennium Falcon, comes from this mid-rim forest world in the Mitrano sector. Visitors to this world make a common mistake. It would be easy to think the Wookiees as only big, shaggy humanoids, but travelers who stay long enough discover that the Wookiees have an ancient culture full of its own subtleties with a close tie to nature. It is easy to think Wookiees as primitive, but their technology blends with the environment in which it was created. This means Wookiees technology can sometimes be hard to spot, while alien technology stands out. In some cases, alien technology is not only rare, but actively sought after. Trading opportunities. Trading with the Wookiees of Kashyyyk can not only be a simple experience, but a profitable one too. Coastal city of Kichiro, wrapped around the trunk of a giant worship tree, has the planet's best starship landing site, since it is wide open. It was the location of the massive invasion by the Separatist army during the Clone Wars. The planet was put under martial law during the rise of the Empire, and both planet and people were harshly treated. The slave trade, always a troubling reality of the Wookiee life, was formalized by the Empire, which was always on the lookout for strong manual laborers and the ruthless captains to transport them. After the Battle of Endor, General Han Solo and Chewbacca returned to free the planet, and trade quickly resumed to aid the considerable rebuilding work. Kashyyyk can be more than a little rough for a smuggler or a swindler, and it's certainly not wise to upset a Wookiee. They have a great affinity for the Force, and whether due to this or their heightened natural senses, they are quick to spot a ruse and will react badly to deception. They have been known to pull people's arms from their sockets, even when they are bested in a trivial contest, for example, or worse for bigger infractions. However, Wookiees also make the most loyal and trusting friends. All right. So our behind the scenes here, Platt's Smugglers Guide, which is what a lot of this is from, published in 1997 by West End Games, was a Star Wars role-playing game supplement. It served two purposes. In the real world, the source book was used by games masters, those running a Star Wars role-playing game, and players for creating and developing characters with a background in smuggling. It also served as an in-universe guide for the characters in the fictional world of the game as well. The introduction, for example, was written from smuggler Platt O'Keefe's perspective, explaining that she wanted to help her fellow smugglers with a few tips and tricks she had learned in the game. But there was also information about how you could use Platt's handbook to spice up your adventure in the Star Wars universe. Players are always looking for information about characters, equipment, and starships, which was covered in 7 chapters. The book contained the very essence of character development, smuggler origins, starships, tools of the trade, contacts, rival and enemies, and character templates. There you go. So that's everything in the review of issue 67. So we got this in issue 67. In issue 68, we're going to get 2 more, and 2 more of these brace pieces. So that will give us, all the ones in the bottom row, and one of the ones in the upper section. So we'll need at least 1 more, if not 2 more, to take care of that upper section. So I doubt we'll be putting those together next time. We'll see what we're going to work on in issue 68. I will see you then. May the force be with you, everybody. Take care.